Hello, friends. Very good afternoon. I'm your host, Sudhir Kumar. Welcomes you on another Facebook Live session with Global Education and Training Institute. On 24th April 2020, during the lockdown period, I came across with an article by the name Nine C's to Strengthen Relationship. And
Nice.
I have to share it with, share that article or the Facebook post on my timeline too. It was very well drafted, and the writer was focusing on the connection with our loved one. And the line from that FB post, which hits me the most that time was, strained relationships are silent killers, which in these times make us vulnerable as they lower the immunities. It is with special excitement that I am pleased to welcome the creator of such wonderful article on our platform today. Very charismatic, very intelligent, and very versatile, Mrs. Harleen Chadda.
Thank you.
Mrs. Harleen is an educationist by profession and associated with one of the esteemed schools of Delhi, NCR, like Model School, Parakamba. She has been in the noble profession from more than 20 years now. She also has hands-on experience in conducting several training programs, and she has organized many workshops for professionals, students, and fellow educators, and on several topics like disaster management, communication skills, soft skills, and personal grooming. She is also an NLP practitioner, an image consultant, and also associated with many non-government organizations. So please join your hands together to welcome Mrs. Harleen Chadda on our platform. Very good afternoon, ma'am. Welcome on our platform.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Sudhir. Thank you so much for your kind words. Really honored to hear all of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So that was a very lovely article about the relationships, about the bonding these days. So that nine C's of relationship. Where did you get the insight from, and what actually makes you think about that nine C's, and what are those nine C's? If you can just let us audience about that.
So, the moment this lockdown started, and the basics were in place, that was a time when it gave me enough time to introspect, what is it that is the most pertinent thing, very close to me and close to many others. So that was a time when I realized it was the well-being of our relatives, well-beings of the relationships that we were in, their happiness, how safe they are, how sound they are, where are they, their well-being and everything else about it, that mattered to me. And that was a time when I introspected and found out that, there's certain relationships in our life, no matter how close we are to them, no matter their blood relations, no matter their colleagues, we somehow tend to take them for granted. And introspecting on the same lines, I thought about these 9 C's of communication, which I thought were very important. These 9 C's of strengthening relationships. So, just to begin with them, the first one I felt was communication. The comfort level, wherein you are in a space when nobody is judging you. You can be yourself, you can speak your mind. You can, without the fear of being judged, you can be yourself. That area is the safe communication zone, that is what it is, where we are not assuming each other, where we are not doing any character assassination, we are not judging people, we are not labeling anybody. It's just that we are giving, being a sounding board to somebody. That was the first and foremost for me. Apart from communication, then the second thing was carry no baggage. It's a very, very short lifespan that we have on this planet. We have no idea, when is it time for us to pack and move on? And I feel, acknowledging differences, appreciating differences, celebrating what is common between us, I think that is what makes the essence of a relationship, and that keeps it booming, I would say. Third for me is commitment, Any relationship, be it your professional, your personal relationship. I feel personal relationships, though, are more challenging than the professional ones, But yes, that commitment, that honesty, that trust, that faith, everything needs to be a part of it. That commitment, it's a very, very important ingredient. And commitment, as I would say, from a womb to a tomb, when it is a mother-child relationship, when it is a spouse relationship, when it's a professional relationship, you are expected to, fulfill the certain requirements that you need to do. Follow a certain protocol, don't fall short of the expectations, and that's all. Next comes to me is a compromise. Compromise, I would not say that it is like, you're belittling yourself. Compromise here means walking the other person's shoes, trying to understand what the other person wants. So seek first to understand and then be understood. So that is very important, and anybody who compromises, anybody who bends, it doesn't mean the person is, a weakling in any way. Forgiveness for that way is an attribute of the courageous. Then for me is compassion, compassion again, all of us, we have our untold battles. All of us are going through a certain story in life. All of us have challenges, and n number of certain things that we are not very open about it. We don't like discussing it. But then giving that other person that benefit wherein the person feels, okay, person, you might, certain things happen because of situation. It's nothing personal about them. So that compassion is again very important. Then is like, being confined to your own boundaries. Don't overstep. Don't intrude into people's privacy. Don't try to, dictate terms to them. Don't try to take decisions for them. Confine in your own boundaries, respect the differences. Don't take the other person for granted. That is what I feel. Again, another C would be contribute in whichever way you can. All of us, there are times when we have our highs and lows. And that is a time, a contribution of any kind, whether it's a financial contribution, whether it's an emotional contribution, whether it is, just lending a helping hand, that contribution again is very, very important. Next for me is, we need to cherish the associations. All of us are different, there are times when our self-esteems are low, and that is a time we need to, give the other person his or her due. We need to cherish those differences. And last but not the least for me is cultivate, the positive self-worth, self-value, happiness, having a faith and belief in your own systems, your own upbringing, the way you've been brought up, your ideologies and your principles. So the more you value yourself, I think by the end of the day, the world sees the value in you, that is important for me. So that is the essence of the relationship, the 9 C's of strengthening relationships that I feel.
Very wise, ma'am. And these are some beautiful points which we somehow ignore in a relationship. But these are some essential things, I believe. This is the most important thing, I believe, because each individual is different in its own sense. So what do you think that how two individuals respect and support each other's ideas and differences of opinions about some particular thing? Because often we see in this society that we say that, okay, we are right. We do not come to the common platform that what is right. Who is right is some kind of argument or any interaction. So how to deal with such situation?
See, relationships is a very complex and a dynamic web, It is ever changing and ever evolving. There's nothing that remains constant, So we need to invest a lot in terms of effort, time, emotions, energy. So it needs a constant rejuvenation, that kind of a thing. So for relationship to be successful, one needs to understand the other person's perspective. And believe you me, there's nothing more complicated in this life than the other individual, So the other individual, no matter how easygoing the person is, we will, in our own perception, find that person a very complex individual. And you can be the other person for me, and I can be the other person for somebody else. So it is, understanding what the other person feels, giving him or her the benefit of doubt, empathizing with them, understanding where whatever they are doing, what it comes from, understanding the situation, being very empathetic towards them. I think these are the little things, that help understand the other individual.
It's very true, ma'am. So what does relationship means to you? क्या होते हैं रिश्ते exactly?
So, relationships, अगर रिश्तों की परिभाषा करें ना, तो वो शायद नंद किशोर कृष्ण भगवान जी भी नहीं दे पाए थे, But at the same time, it is relationship for me. It is a bonding. It's a connect. It is an interconnection. It is the interdependency. It has different parameters to it, understanding the other person the way they are, why they are different and why we are the way we are. That is what for me relationship is. So it is that eternal bonding between the two things, between the places we are in, between the individuals that we are, how we are connected, how we bond towards each other, what is the connection between us, what is the association between us. That all constitutes a relationship between the two things.
Very wise, ma'am. And what do you want to say to the Generation Z, who actually, relationship phobic, and they do not want to indulge in the, complex relationship? So what would be your message for that generation, especially our teenagers?
By far, this generation is the most sound generation that I've ever come across.
Okay.
So when I go down the memory lane, when we introspect and see people of 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, this particular generation is far more sound, very reasonable, very, very objective, very rational. And, they value themselves and their independence more than anybody else. So they are the most innovative and creative kind of a generation, which has come of a digital age. They're very aware of their rights. They are aware of what's happening. So they have grown in the age of recession. They've grown in the age of awareness. For them, everything is just at a click of a button. To handle this situation, I feel, one really needs to inspire and motivate them. It is only then we'll be able to instruct them, And whatever we bring to the table for them, it has to be very, very, we should be able to persuade them. And at the same time, if we are giving them a message, it has to be a compelling message. Without an agenda, if you and I feel that we can go and speak to them, believe you me, they will outsmart us. So, whenever we are interacting with them, I feel the first and foremost is those little tactics, grab their attention. One needs to understand that their time is also at premium. So, we cannot be repetitive about things, when we are going there. We have to have an agenda at hand. So when I say grab their attention, I mean, it could be maybe a quote, maybe an emotive story, or, maybe some shocking statistics. It could be anything, so that, they're there to listen to you for a while. Trying to reason out them without an agenda doesn't help. Second, for them, I feel is, we need to establish a need for them. Why is it that they should listen to us? What is it, in the current situation that they need to think about and introspect? Then is, how is it that our experience, our suggestions, whatever we have in mind, how can we enhance their thought process, And then we need to spell out that, okay, this is the consequence of what they're doing. Very, very important for them to understand that objectively. And I think third for them is, we need to tell them that how, this particular thing can satisfy their needs. How is it that we are contributing to them? So whatever is, their identified problem, what are the solutions that we can offer? What are the options that we can tell them? All that we need to talk about. And I think, again, very important is to paint that picture, of the future. So taking in both the scenarios, one, wherein they need to imagine the consequences in case they don't pull up their socks, what happens? And second is a scenario of a beautiful future, which of course uncertain, but yes, in case they follow if they toe the similar path, they might, happen to chance on that. So we need to weigh the pros and cons for them, bring it to the limelight. Okay, this is what it is. Reason out with them. And again, very important is we need to spell the next step for them. Having an argument with the teens and not giving them a direction, it's not going to help them. So in case we are, in case we are helping them in case we are having this discussion with them, we might as well give them those, manageable chunks wherein they can work on it and they can strategize it and they are able to do the needful to make their life more happening. That is what it is. And the teenagers, or the adolescents or the Generation Z or millennials, whatever you call them, by the end of the day, I feel it's very important to drop these cliches with them. If we keep telling them however pertinent it is, those actions speak louder than words. Is it asking too much? So they are not interested in all that. For them, it is just a conversational filler. We need to eradicate all that, and we need to talk, facts with them. We need to bring to table that value addition that we can do to them. So otherwise, we'll be vestigial and we won't even come to know. So we need to match up with them. They don't need to match up with us. So that is what it is.
Exactly.
And again, another thing I would add to it, we cannot go with a stereotype bent of mind. We need to be neutral in our approach. We cannot ask them to listen to our decisions. We need to reason out with them. That's all.
I think that before suggesting anything to the current generation, we need to think about our teenage time as well. Even we were rebellious, we were curious, and we were having different, perspective about the relationship that time. So even we have to think in the similar fashion. And from in last 10 to 12 years, the technology has rapidly increased, and the scenario and the world around us that has been changed drastically. So I think that somehow changes the mindset of the teenagers, and that's the reason they are what they are exactly today. And as you have said, that yes, we have to reason them. We have to tell them what is the purpose, what is the agenda behind that. Just saying certain logics that won't work for them. Very apt, ma'am.
Absolutely.
So you also spoke about the attachment with them. So how do you define, or how do you consider the attachment?
See, attachment with them is going to something that care, concern, compassion, that's going to remain forever. We'll always be attached to them. But the point is that here with these people, with the youngsters, we need to respect their boundaries. So the moment we respect their boundaries and at the same time we assimilate, whatever has been our experience throughout, that is what will give them an insight to do things, So we have to give them time to air their grievances, listen to them. We need to facilitate an exchange. We need to give them a safe, comfortable zone wherein they can communicate. There might be things that we are not very happy with. There might be things which will not go down very well with us. There will be times when we'll have a setbacks. There'll be a conversation for which we might not be prepared. But in case we need to reason out with them, in case we need to strengthen our relationships with them, in case we want them to give us a listening ear, we need to take all that into account.
That's true, ma'am. Yes, very well. So you mentioned about the boundaries. So there is often a confusion between creating boundaries and setting boundaries. So what kind of flexibility should be there, and how the parent, being the parent figure, how they would define the boundaries with their kids?
So, when we talk about, everybody has a different life. Everybody is being brought up in a different background and a different principles and a different faith system and different beliefs. So when we talk about boundaries, it is like it's a prerogative of each parent. It's a prerogative of the families that we come from. So not everybody, not one hat fits all. It is we need to idealize things and we need to have our own set of do's and don'ts. So the idea is to be able to distinguish from what is right to what is wrong. But again, it all comes in and it boils down to the parents, their family backgrounds, their beliefs, their expectations of their children, whatever, is the journey that they want to undertake and whatever they are meant for.
But when we talk about such kind of thing, one thing also comes into the picture. Suppose, as you have said, that every family has their belief system, has their own family values and culture. But when kids go to school, when they step out of the house, they meet many new people, which has different perspective about the world, and now they enter into a new zone. So there is a conflict now in their mind. So what would be your suggestion in order to somehow season your child or season your kid to maintain the balance and to choose what is right and what is out of their boundary?
So, for that, I would rather say, it is easier to wear slippers than to carpet the ground. Not every time we will have those helicopter parents, hovering around. When we talk about those 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, our parents did give us freedom, We were the ones who were our own guardians and who were our own parents at certain times. We also had peer pressure. There were times when we were in a dilemma, what to do, what not to do. We had to distinguish and take decisions about what was right and what was wrong. So believe you me, these children, they are much more informed. The upbringing is much stronger. The parents have really invested their time, efforts, and energy in them. They've given them the right values, the right system. So we only need to trust them with their decisions. Yes, but at the same time, walk an extra mile to know what your child is doing. I'm not saying about those tracking apps, and I'm not saying about, that helicopter parenting, and I'm not saying intruding into their privacy. But at the same time, you can keep a vigilance from the distance, and again have faith in your own value system, what you've given to the children. So these children, let them weigh their pros and cons. Wherever possible, let them make small decisions. Support them in their way. And if you feel that, from your experience, if you gauge that they're going wrong, reason out with them. Tell them a perspective. I here would like to add something very interesting. I'm a mother of two college-going boys, and as most children, always they have way with things, and they're rebellious, and they have their own thought process. So somebody said to me, and it really appealed to me, and I always tell my children this. Immediate thing that you see in front, you are ready. I mean, you are absolutely at your will to take decisions. But being your parents, being more experienced, in age and service and times. So we are like those, we have that bird's eye view, the drone's eye view. So what we can see, apparently you can't see. So it is like in our own perspective, we try to tell them, okay, if you go ahead, you might bump into something like this, which is not very desirous for you. But later on, of course, the decision remains with them. So whether they want to, overlook that, whether they want to maneuver their way, whether they want to take a different route altogether, or whether they still want to experiment with that. So.
Right, and we should not be the helicopter, vigilance team. So we have to put faith in our kids. We have to, believe in our belief system and our culture, what value we put in our kids. So, ma'am, one more thing, that means whenever we talk about a relationship, so the picture comes into the mind often, that relationship confused with only the partners. Like we are on the educational platform, so now we are discussing about the parent and the kids relationship. But often it confuses with only with the partner. But so how you would say, what else is there if we talk about relationship? How many kinds of relationships are there, and what is the key factor to cherish them?
So, basically the 4 different kind of relationships that we talk about. One is your immediate family, and that is your personal relationships. Then, of course, are your friends. Again, to a certain extent, being your personal relationship. So apart from your family and friends, the 2 main kind of relationships, we have our acquaintances and we have our professional relationships. All relationships, no matter what they are, no matter, whatever is the demand from them, all of them, they require our honesty, our commitment. They require our integrity towards it. They require our being, very, very dedicated and loyal to it. So in case, if you're working, at the same time, we need to do what is expected out of us. When we are at home, whether it's a mother, whether it's a father, so that harmony needs to exist in whichever sphere of life we are. To an extent, even if we have, while commuting, we are taking the help of somebody. So believe you me, if we are not good to them, or if there's not that harmony kind of a thing, so those vibes will rub down to us. The day we have a showdown with anybody for that matter, whether it's home, whether it's outside, whether it's a guard, whether it's a cab driver, believe you me, it's going to leave a bad taste in the mouth. So by the end of the day, we are the ones, the most evolved so-called species, made by God on this planet. So we need to exercise the brains that we have to be in harmony with anybody who is existing adjacent to us, be it a family, be it our friends, be it, the colleagues that we are working with, or so-called the acquaintances, the helping staff, the domestic people around. Everybody, the relationship constitutes each and every person whom we are interacting with.
Very well said, ma'am. So in this lockdown period, what do you think that how far or close, we actually come to the family or the loved ones. If we talk about, many people are stuck here and there, few stuck with their parents in the same home. So because they were not in a habit of it, parents were working, students were used to be at school. So now they are in one place. So how you find this situation, and how families are coping up with this situation? Is it good for them, or is somehow it is creating problems because they are having lack of space?
So it is again, that quality versus quantity. So initially, we could only spend some quality time with each other. But now, thanks to the lockdown, it definitely calls for I would say, redefining of relationships, if not readjusting. So redefining of relationships would mean, for somebody who had not been visible to you for more than 4 hours a day is now visible to you practically 24/7. So the sleep patterns have changed, the functioning of the homes have changed. So now we've realized, we've seen the other side of the fence, which we had only thought as green, not green, having our own opinions. Now we exactly know what, working in the kitchen would mean. Or now I would exactly know what a webinar for my husband would mean, or for the classes of my child, for that matter. So it's definitely given us a much better understanding. Again, as I say, different people have reacted to it very differently. But those people, there are certain people who are bogged down by anxiety and the pressures of the lockdown, who are feeling isolated, who are feeling all by themselves. But on the other side, the other side of the coin is the people who've redefined their boundaries, who have started taking more interest in what their spouse is doing or what their children are doing. So they're trying to walk their shoes now. They are lending a helping hand where apparently, the real demarcated boundaries are now being overstepped. So we are having time at hand to introspect and to learn from the other person's perspective. So now we are working as a team. And in fact, some of them are much closer to their own families and to their own neighborhoods. And they're more critical and empathetic towards whoever has been associated with them. So again, different perspectives for different people. It depends on what you want to see and what you want to evade. That is what I would say here.
Yes, it's interesting to know that, because they were not getting that much time. They were only hanging out on the weekends, and they were just having chit chat. Only the time they get was the weekends, especially in the cities like Delhi and other metro cities. But now they are having ample of time to spend with each other and to know the family members very closely. So that comes to the different point which I want to ask from you, that what mistake usually parents do while raising their kids?
So one is, as parents, we need to understand a child is an individual in his or her own right.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of, taking them for granted, we need to be very, very certain about the type of conversation that we have with them. We know we have, the words are a very, very powerful resource. We need to use them very judiciously when we are talking to our children. With our seniors, with our colleagues, we are very mindful about what we talk. But when we talk about children, we somehow, we just take them for granted and we expect them to understand we are parents. No. So by the end of the day, we need to understand that he or she, your child, is an individual in his or her own right. He has a mind of his own. She has a mind of her own. She is analyzing things. I'm only responsible for what I say and not what the other person understands. For me, what is a casual remark might go down very bad with, my child. I might hurt the emotions and sentiments of my child. So at the same time, and these children today, they believe in inclusive communication. They are not the ones who will get bogged down by whatever we are telling them, or, they'll be happy with us taking decisions for them. These are the children who want their viewpoint to be heard. They have an opinion of their own, the mind of their own. They have their individuality, which needs to be celebrated. So, and at the same time, one, we cannot take them for granted. Second, we need to give them their time and space. We cannot invade into their personal zones. Every child is in a different time zone and a different, mindset. So in case we need to make bridges with them. We just cannot go holding on to them and telling them, okay, this is what you need to do. our things, our experiences, our challenges, they're much different from these children. In fact, they are the ones who are like actually feeling, facing the whirlpool of emotions. They have their peer pressure, they have digitalization, they have those cyber stuff, they're working online. There are too many things that they are also juggling with too many balls. It's just that because we are parents, it doesn't give us a right to dictate terms to them. It's as simple as that.
Very well said, ma'am. And like you have said that we have to impart, or we have to start giving responsibilities to our kids as well. Sometimes we think that they are not capable of it, but what kind of responsibility and how much one should rely while giving responsibilities to their kids, because I believe that once you hand over some kind of responsibility to them, they actually try their best to do the best, do something good about it in order to impress their parents, that okay, I have that capability and I can do that. So do you think that it is a viable way to impart some values and impart or to enhance their decision making skill?
Absolutely. If we give them a responsibility, anything, with their creative pursuits, their intellect, their understanding of the things, they will do very, very well. So in fact, if you give them a responsibility with things, with power comes responsibility, as they say, they will leave no stone unturned to ensure that they are all happy and they are being well looked after. And some of them might even surprise you. They can go even further beyond their expectations, So try giving them that responsibility and they'll surprise you with the level of commitment, the level of understanding, the immaculate, the impeccable work that they have done. They will surprise you with all of that.
True, very true, ma'am. Even we have seen, especially the kids who loses their parents or guardians at very younger age. So we often see the transformative change in their behavior and their outlook toward the world, and they seems much more mature than the rest of the kids of the similar age. So somehow that gives the reflection of the same idea that once the responsibilities are over them, they actually fulfill those things very beautifully.
Absolutely.
So, what things parents should keep in mind in order to do the positive parenting, not the regressive, not the negative thing, should be there.
So keep reinforcing to them, appreciate the little things that they do, give them rewards, tell them that they are worth it. I think I would say celebrate whatever little achievements that they have, tell them where they go wrong. And at the same time, whenever it's a possibility, whenever they do something good, make it a point to celebrate it. And celebrate it in a way that it goes well. It should not look like something which is farce and something which is false. Something which is very, very genuine, that your words have a meaning and you mean what you say. It is not from the tip of the tongue, but it is a genuine care, concern, and appreciation for whatever the child has done. Or for whatever, for that matter, in a relationship, acknowledge and appreciate people for what they have done. And whichever way they've added value to your life.
Okay. So, last thing I just want to ask from you before we end the session: will relationships redefined in this new coronavirus situation and this pandemic situation?
So relationship, as I say, it is a lot of time for introspection. So there were times when we had just taken the other person for granted and not given him or her due. So now this is a time when we really need to redefine. We need to walk their shoes and understand how the things are. We need to see the other person's perspective. We need to, I would say rather, give the other person his or her due. And that is the only way that we'll be able to understand and make a more meaningful relationship. The day we learn to respect boundaries, the day we learn how to cherish those little associations, the day we learn to, confine our own boundaries, I think that is something which is really going to do them good. And whatever baggage that we have, if there are certain thing that has happened, just let it go. There's no point, having that thing with you. It was a situation which happened and nothing more than that. It wasn't meant to be eternal. Remember that little story wherein Birbal and his friend were going out, and Birbal's friend, for some rhyme or reason, he hit him. So Birbal went and wrote on that sand, that today my friend hit me. And later on, when they were walking ahead, Birbal was in a deep trouble. He had to be pulled out of the well. So that is the time he came out and wrote on a stone, that today my friend helped me. So when he was asked why did he do so, he says, the situational thing, the bad things, the traumatic experiences that we all have, it is just situational and we need to let it go. There's no point carrying a baggage of that. But if somebody helps you, if somebody is there for you, if somebody is trying to hold your hand and get you through, that is a thing that you always need to remember and pay the other person in the same coins. Celebrating differences, and at the same time acknowledging that we have our limitations. It's not one person, all of us, we have our shortcomings and weaknesses. So the more we can understand it, the better our relationships can be.
Very true, ma'am. These are some excellent points and interesting things which we have learned today from you, and it was a quite an insightful session today. So before we leave for the day, any message you want to give to our viewers and to the parents and the teachers as well in this pandemic period?
So I think, Sudhir, for that, I would sum it up with a little poetry, that is very, very close to my heart. It says, आहिस्ता चल जिंदगी, अभी कई कर्ज चुकाने बाकी हैं, कुछ दर्द मिटाने बाकी हैं, कुछ फर्ज निभाने बाकी हैं. रफ्तार में तेरी चलने से कुछ रूठ गए, कुछ छूट गए. रूठों को मनाना बाकी है, रोतों को छुपाना बाकी है. कुछ रिश्ते बनकर टूट गए, कुछ जुड़ते जुड़ते छूट गए. उन टूटे छूटे रिश्तों को, जख्मों को मिटाना बाकी है. कुछ हसरतें अभी अधूरी हैं, कुछ काम भी अभी जरूरी हैं. जीवन के उलझी पहेली को पूरा सुलझाना बाकी है. जब सांसों को थमना है, फिर क्यों रुकना, क्यों रोना, क्यों खोना है. पर मन का जिद्दी बच्चे को ये बात बताना बाकी है. आहिस्ता चल जिंदगी, अभी कुछ कर्ज निभाने बाकी हैं, कुछ फर्ज निभाने बाकी हैं, कुछ फर्ज निभाने बाकी हैं.
बहुत ही सुंदर लाइंस थी मैम ये, and very apt as per the current situation. So keeping these points in mind, I would like to request my viewers, please stay connected with your family members, stay close, stay safe, because the time which we are getting in today's world, we might not get in the future. It is one of the eventful thing which we are witnessing in our lifetime. So cherish those moments with your family members, cherish the differences, and close the gap. So with that, I would like to close this session. Have a great day ahead, and a special thanks to Halim ma'am for sharing such wonderful thought. And yes, don't forget to search for 9 C's of Relationship by Mrs. Harleen Chadda.
Thank you so much, Sudhir, for having me here. Thank you so much. It was lovely interacting with you, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, ma'am, and have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.